After Adelita Grijalva's landslide victory on Tuesday in the special election in Arizona, Donald Trump and Mike Johnson are now having to scramble behind the scenes to prevent the Epstein files from being released because Grijalva is the last needed signature needed to force a vote on disclosure of those documents. Representative Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna have gotten like basically all the Democrats and a small handful of Republicans. And now with Grijalva, they have enough. And Grijalva's made clear her plans to sign it, putting out this message saying, I'm planning on traveling to Washington, D.C. on Monday to join my colleagues in demanding that Republicans come to the negotiating table to prevent the government shutdown and vote on the release of the Epstein files. We cannot allow Republicans' dysfunction to jeopardize the economy or block long overdue accountability. And we covered that election. We had one of the candidates on. We did reach out to Adelita Grijalva. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it happen. But anyway, I'm totally down for her to sign this. I hope she's successful. But what is the right gonna do? Because, and if you're a MAGA, I know that this makes you uncomfortable to acknowledge, Trump does not want these documents to come out. Mike Johnson does not want these documents to come out. And I'm sure you've been provided with some BS excuse as to why that would be. That's not just that they want to cover it up, but that is what it is. They want to cover it up. And so now they're maneuvering behind the scenes to try to stop this vote from happening early next week. And some of those Republicans who have already signed on to it are saying they're being pressured heavily behind the scenes to remove their names from it. That includes Marjorie Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. And I still am so shocked that Lauren Boebert is on that. But that's good. I'm glad that she's there. What's interesting is that like Marjorie Greene seems like a lock. She did the press conference with the survivors. Lauren Boebert hasn't really said anything. She could potentially be pressured. Nancy Mace is one that like she wants to be seen as a big advocate for survivors of sexual abuse. But she also really needs Donald Trump's support. She in fact is gonna be running for governor of South Carolina. She's really gonna need his endorsement for that. So that would be my fear, Brett, is that she could potentially be talked into, like she'd remove her name and then be like, well, I've received assurances that we're gonna do an investigate or whatever BS. But that might be enough to shut it down. What do you think?
I mean, there's a lot that goes into whether or not folks vote against something that's very popular. And once, I think Cenk mentioned this on Main Show yesterday, like once it's possible that like they realize that once Grijalva shows up in the halls of Congress, that the Republicans know that they can no longer keep this thing shut down. So it would either be people removing their name for the list to compensate for her specifically, which would be insane, but not necessarily suicide. It would be on us to pressure folks to remember that. Or you'll just see a lot of people flood the zone with yes votes, and then they'll try to do something very tricky afterwards just to delay the release or anything like that. They might put themselves down to vote for the vote, but not necessarily for the release. A lot of those kind of maneuverings might happen. But Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Greene are people who seem to have made the calculation that either it won't ever pass and they'll get away with being on the quote side of most of us, or they know that it's gonna get passed, like something's gonna happen. They can't reconcile with their constituents being against it being for the release of this so long and then not.
Yeah.
Or they genuinely do believe it. Like they might be true believers on this, and who am I to stop them? You know, those are but it's my job to lay out and understand the possibilities.
I think some might be. I think that Marjorie Greene, like she seemed fully QAnon'd up, like, you know, in an alternate world, she could have been the Comet Pizza person for all I know. She seems like a true believer, but which would be good. But the others, I don't know. But
like also reminding everybody, like Trump is the one who doesn't want these released. Kash Patel doesn't want these released.
Yep, Pam Bondi,
you know,
Dan Bongino,
and Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, was like, I'll trust my friends in government. Like I thought the government was all deep state clowns. So
yeah, exactly.
Like,
and unfortunately,
mealy mouth both sidesism is talking on both sides of your mouth is rough.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's made it easier for this cover up to continue is you had that initial weekend of we're going to be tough on this, we're going to stick to our guns, and Charlie Kirk was a part of that. And then they got a call from Trump and they immediately backed off. And they sent a signal to their audiences: you don't actually have to pay attention to this. We're gonna ignore it.
Which is deep state goons like Donald Trump, Kash Patel, and others advocating for the obfuscation and burying of information about child sex trafficking, which I thought was the thing that Trump was gonna QAnon our way out of.
And unfortunately not.